Hey, welcome back to Curiosity Hub. I'm Ollie Hubbard. This is week 4 of our 12-week marathon experiment. If you haven't seen the past weeks or the things we've explored, they're just up there. But this week, I'm in Melbourne and I just talked to one of the smartest YouTubers who told me and who's going to tell you all about common running injuries. But the week started in Sydney. Okay, today was meant to be a speed session, but my knees were a bit sore. So after a few kilometers, I just jogged back home, just gonna stretch, because tomorrow we've got a 16K run. So just gonna stretch and hopefully they feel a bit better. They don't really feel any better. If anything, the left feels substantially worse. So I've just stretched and I'm gonna try the 16Ks, but I might end up just doing more like 10 and then having time to ice them properly and cool down properly, because I don't really want to be in Melbourne and not be able to run. Okay, I only managed about 6 kilometers. My knees are still sore, but I'm gonna ice them, and then hopefully in Melbourne they're all good, because I've got a 26-kilometer run at the end of the week in Melbourne, so gonna try and find a good track to do that, and I'll be pretty bummed if I didn't get to do that. I'll see you early tomorrow morning for the flight. Okay, in Melbourne now, just gonna go for a quick 6K run around the Royal Botanic Gardens. Well, Melbourne, you lived up to your expectations, just a little wet, but the knee held up. The gardens were super nice, so looking forward to the longer run tomorrow. Okay, much sunnier day, just gonna go for 10Ks. Gonna check out the gardens again. They were really nice, and then just run down the river a bit. It's sunny, beautiful day. See you soon. Done. My GPS kind of messed up, so possibly did a bit more than 10Ks. First day of VidCon today and another 10Ks. Okay, I'm about to go to VidCon and you are about to meet one of the smartest people on YouTube.
So we're going to learn about the anatomy of the knee. Here I'm drawing the femur. This is the distal part of the femur. Let's just say we're looking at the right knee here. And so this is the lateral epicondyle. And here is the medial epicondyle. The femur will eventually join onto the tibial bone. So here I'm drawing the tibial bone. And there's another bone on the lateral part, which is the fibula. An important bone used for leverage is the patella, which sits essentially around here. It's an interesting shape, like a triangle. And again, it's important for leverage. What separates these two bones are the meniscus. You have what's called an articular cartilage here, which wraps around, and it's important for, I guess, for keeping the ends of the bone smooth. And then you have another meniscus, which gets normally injured during sports injuries. And of course, you have ligaments, heaps of ligaments supporting the bone, the knee joint. So you have two important ligaments in the middle, which are your ACL and PCL, which I'm just gonna represent like two X's here. And on the side, you have the lateral collateral ligament and then your medial collateral ligament. The quadriceps femoris is made up of several muscles, which will essentially come down and verge onto the patella. And from here, its fascia will wrap around the patella, and actually it will form a continuation which will form the patella tendon. So here is your patella tendon. Again, this is your patella, P for patella, and here essentially are your quads, the muscles. So I want to talk about common running injuries. So one of the most common running injuries occurs in the knee joint, hence why I'm drawing the knee. And so a common injury is called the Patellofemoral syndrome. And essentially, it's an overuse injury, common in runners. And what happens is you actually get some sort of inflammation around the patella, around this area. And what people often describe is that they have a pain underneath the patella bone. And so with this sort of injury, which is again very common, it's important to just rest, take care of it, and then you can continue on with running. One of the factors that are involved in patellofemoral syndrome is having weak hips, hip muscles. So strengthening your hips is often also recommended. Now, another important attachment here is a band which runs from the hip, comes down this way, and attaches on the anterolateral aspect of the tibia, roughly around here. This band is called the iliotibial band. I will write ITB, iliotibial band. And this band is important to know because irritation of this band is also a common running injury. So what happens here is that people will often complain of pain on the essentially lateral aspect of their knee, roughly where the band crosses over the lateral epicondyle of the femur. What happens in ITBS is that you have an overuse injury where the band will continuously flicker on the lateral epicondyle of the femur, causing irritation and pain. And so a characteristic feature of ITB is essentially point tenderness where it passes the epicondyle, lateral epicondyle, as well as certain degrees of bending the knees will also elicit the pain. So this is also a common injury in bike riders. The last common running injury I want to talk about is shin splints. Shin splints is when you get pain along your tibial shaft, essentially. And what shin splints is essentially trauma. It is trauma to the muscle connective tissue that is in front of your tibial bone. So the muscles running around your tibia, you're causing micro trauma to it, and thus results in shin splints. People often complain of, I guess, vague pain around the anterior part of the tibial bone, and also, I guess, tenderness when you press it. But shin splints has to be differentiated from stress fractures of the tibial bone. And I guess what doctors usually do is take an X-ray. So again, here, you have muscles running along your tibia. Shin splints is when you get sort of trauma to the area, and thus you get shin splints. But this again has to be differentiated from a stress fracture, which is actually a trauma to the bone. So runners can also get stress fractures, but this is obviously are quite rare. So often doctors will perform an X-ray to rule out any actual fractures. But then again, the treatment is quite similar, even if you do have a stress fracture, which is rest. All right, so we just talked about the knee anatomy, and we talked about the three most common knee injuries. So we're right now looking at a left knee here, not of a right knee. So just to orientate where we are, here is your patella, the mobile joint, the leverage of the knee, lever. And then here is your femur, the bone, coming down and attaching here the tibia, the tibial bone. And on the outside aspect, connecting to the tibia, is your fibula, which is a thinner, like a smaller bone. And again, in between the femur and the tibia is your meniscus. And also there are ligaments supporting the knee. So here you have your medial collateral ligament, lateral collateral ligament, and then your ACL and PCL inside. So patellofemoral syndrome, as we talked about, is essentially pain around where the patella is. And the pain will be classically described as being under or inside the patella, a bone. The other common knee injury in runners that we talked about is the Iliotibial Band Syndrome. And again, the band comes down from the hip, passes through the lateral epicondyle of the femur, and attaches in the anterolateral aspect of the tibia. So it'll attach around here. And essentially, the pain that will occur, in iliotibial band syndrome, will be where the band passes through the lateral epicondyle of the femur. So it'll be point tenderness around the area. Finally, the last common injury in runners are shin splints. And shin splints is basically characterized by pain in the anterior part of the tibial bone. And shin splints are actually just trauma, microtrauma, to the muscle fibers, connective tissue fibers running in front of the tibial bone. And this again has to be differentiated from stress fractures of the tibia. But again, the management is similar. It's literally just rest. If you want more information on knee anatomy and common knee injuries, visit my channel, Armando Hasudungan. You can find on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching.
A serious thank you to Armando, one of the most gracious and smartest guys on YouTube. And it genuinely helps me to understand those different injuries and and what's going on there, and hopefully that helped you as well. And so I've got a 24-kilometer run this morning. It is not even 6 o'clock yet, and I just want to sleep. But I'm gonna go out and just run along the river for 12 Ks and then turn around and come back. So hopefully I don't experience any of those injuries that we just covered, and I'll see you soon. 24 kilometers down and I am exhausted, but finished. Okay, so that is the end of VidCon and the end of week 4 of our 12-week marathon experiment. So far, it's actually gone surprisingly well. And I've also decided to use the marathon as an opportunity to raise some awareness and some support for the Against Malaria Foundation. So I'll put a link to my page down in the description. Feel free to support it, but please do not feel obliged. And next week I'll be exploring more about the organization, why I chose it, and a bit about malaria as well. Again, a massive thank you to Armando, a seriously brilliant, intelligent, and genuine guy. If you want to check out more of his stuff, I'll put a link right there. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe or share it with someone who might. So I hope you've had a great week, and as always, stay curious.